would be 3 healthy steps that people could use right now to change their diet for the better?
Okay, 3 steps. I could say bring fruit to work, or drink water. What have I got on my top? I say drink lots of water, get lots of sleep.
Yep.
But
Hi, this is Christian from Southern Peak CrossFit. I'm here with Brad Brosnan, my good friend, and he is the author of Better Balance. It's a cookbook that him and his fiancée Lindsay Coop made together. So it's great to have you on board, Brad, for this. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your philosophy behind this cookbook.
Cool. Well, thanks for that introduction.
No worries.
You're actually the guy that helped me create that cookbook during lockdown, remember?
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, a bit about me. Christian's old friend from South, what is it, CrossFit Dunedin days?
Yep.
10 years ago?
Way back then.
Way
yeah.
back.
It's been good.
You don't look like you've aged too much.
Trying to.
No, that's good. And I'm a dietitian. Been a dietitian for 5 years.
Yeah.
Worked in hospitals, prison, schools, done private practice, worked in CrossFit.
Fantastic.
But I'm always keen on learning more than just diet, and now I'm doing my PhD, and that's on sleep.
Yep. Fantastic.
Sleep's a big part of our health, and having a bad sleep can change what we eat, change how we move. So I'm really interested in that. And currently my PhD is looking at how screens at night impact sleep. So that's a big thing these days, screens.
Fantastic.
And in terms of the cookbook, that was sort of during lockdown, we had some spare time, me and Lindsay, and I'm always wanting to help people with their food, and this was sort of a way to consolidate our knowledge into sort of a simple way, sort of something foundational people can use at home.
Brilliant.
And it does sort of go in with what is healthy to me. The whole idea is eating simple whole foods, because for me, sort of healthy eating, it's not about eating this or eating that. It's sort of an overall approach.
Yeah, for sure.
That incorporates whole foods that are close to nature, from the earth. It's also about looking at portion sizes, your attitudes towards food. Some big components there.
Exactly. Because there's a bunch of stuff in the start of your book, in the introduction, where you go over a couple of things as well, and you have this pie chart of 10% fats, 20% proteins, 20% whole grain, starchy veg, and then 50% green, non-starchy vegetables. So obviously that was that's
one of the principles,
exactly, that you use throughout all the recipes in the cookbook. So which means that the whole book basically guides you through. Like, this is not only advertisement for the book. We're going to get more into who you are as well. But just to get this stuff done, it's really easy for you to get started with this real simple book.
That's sort of the feedback we've got. It is simple. But it also helps people with that foundational stuff, that plate model.
100%.
Half the plate, veggie.
Yeah. Everything is set up into breakfast, lunch, and dinners and stuff. So it's awesome. But the main thing of this chat is to go into how you came about. Like, your philosophy on food really shines through here. Obviously, through all your travels and stuff, you've come to terms with what you think is a healthy diet. So yes, balance is your main one. But what do people really need to look out for? So you've been talking about whole foods mainly. Is there anything else that just to make it really simple in terms of what people can do?
I guess leading on from the whole what is healthy eating, the whole book thing, it comes back to this sort of famous quote that this journalist Michael Pollan says, eat food, mostly plants. No, so let me restart that. I always get this wrong. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
Cool.
So it all comes back to just keeping things simple.
Yep.
The first two words there, eat food.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of means eat real food. Eat food that's minimally processed, close to nature, that's vegetables, fruit, whole grains, things like brown rice, buckwheat, quinoa, grainy bread, fish, chicken, some meat, legumes, nut seeds, that sort of thing. And then the not too much is the next part of that quote, and that comes down to portion sizes, being more aware of how much we're eating. And then the last thing, eating mostly plants.
Yep.
I think the key there is mostly. It's not to say we're cutting out meat, but we're making a bit of a shift from animal products to higher ratio of plants.
For sure.
Vegetables and fruits.
Yep.
It's sort of that boring stuff, but that is what's good.
Yeah, for sure, and it's simple to follow.
Yeah. And I think that quote, eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
Brilliant.
Is something, it always comes back to that.
Yeah. Did you have a bit of an experience in your life that got you to this point? Have you tried a bunch of different things and you figured it's probably better for me to do the balance thing rather than go into a specific level of just being a vegetarian or just being meat eater or just juicing or something like that? Are there any things that's you've experienced that's gotten you to this level?
That's a good question. Because there is diets, and diets can work, and then there's also lifestyle approaches.
For sure.
Which is what we've been talking about. It's more a lifestyle approach. They both work, diets and lifestyle can work, but one's perhaps more sustainable long term. And also, what were you saying there about? Yes, I have tried. Some of those. Diets. I've tried paleo, keto, fasting. They can work, and they can work for what your goal is. Maybe it's weight loss, but on the other side of that, the more lifestyle approach can work as well. And it comes back to, they all have the same thing in common. They're all mainly whole foods. We're cutting down the sugar. We are cutting down the packaging, refined, processed foods, and eating that mainly sort of fruit and veggie, plants that are, products that are natural. Yeah. That's really what all successful diets come down to, is those sort of things.
Yeah, for sure.
So whatever you're doing, it's probably likely that you're cutting out junk, and you're increasing the whole foods.
and I think that's basically what I got out of this whole book. You're not into fads. You're not into this is how you should do it, nothing else. This is exactly what it says. It's balance. It's making sure you get something of everything to make it sustainable. So you're not just doing keto for 3 months and then you go back to eating all your takeaways again and think everything is fine. This is something you should be doing for the rest of your life. Which is the really good idea, or the really cool thing about having you come on as the first person to talk about diet. Let's get the start of it and really get a balanced diet. Eat everything, and then from there, as you just said, you can venture into different areas and find out what works best for you.
Because this is sort of, if you get this foundational stuff right,
100%.
Then sure, let's go try this different thing, this different approach, strategy for more performance or the more fine tuning. But that it always, for me, comes back to let's get the basics right.
Awesome.
And that often can be even starting at the supermarket. Because one of the biggest challenges is navigating that. The colourful marketing, the foods that are screaming at you versus the more quiet ones that are the ones you should be going for. And that can be often on the outside, the perimeter, that old...
I was just going to say that, you stay away from the aisles and only stay around the supermarket. You reckon that still holds true? Is that something you would recommend? 100%?
For sure. Even though that I don't often like to just be repeating what people are being told, but when you look at, whenever I'm helping a friend, I do always say it starts at with the trolley, and what that looks like. Is it colourful or is it just packaged in brown? Obviously you need to go into the middle lanes to get your cans and your beans and your eggs.
Fine, but still, I know what you mean. It's really interesting.
It is really if I could just look at people's trolleys, I could tell you're going to do good. You're going to do good. You need some help. Just, fine tuning some stuff.
It's something, everyone can learn from that. What would be 3 healthy steps that people could use right now to change their diet for the better?
Okay, 3 steps. I could say bring fruit to work, or drink water. What have I got on my top? I say drink lots of water, get lots of sleep. But I don't like to give what you've probably already heard that. So maybe the first one would be increasing self-awareness of what we're eating.
Amazing.
Being more in tune to what you're eating, how you're feeling, how hungry you are, and whether or not your environment is a strength, or is it more slipping you up? Is it the pantry food that's tempting you? Is it the local store down the road that you're going with your workmates? Just becoming more aware of this stuff. What's your one, the Bacon Buddy? Or
or even the Ward Street Cafe. They do a few healthy options as well. We've talked about that before. So there are healthy options around. But you're right. Probably bringing most of your food to work. Is that where we're going?
That would be one of my other steps. But this one was more about finding out where you are slipping up and what your strengths are. Maybe you're coming into this gym, CrossFit, every day, second day, so that's a strength. But then on the other side, you might be getting takeouts quite frequently.
Exactly. So that ruins it.
So perhaps that's a weakness that you need to realise, and from there we can start building habit after that.
Awesome.
So that would be the first step: self-awareness. Learning your strengths and weaknesses, and then from there we can run into starting healthier habits from there. The second step would be along those lines, and that not changing everything at once. Would be changing one habit at a time. Just from all of the stuff I've experienced and read, it's about consistency. So, and doing that for, say, doing one habit for 2 weeks, then we move on to doing something else, rather than a complete overhaul of removing all these food groups, and doing that for like a few days, and then you it's just a roller coaster. So that would be my second thing, would be take this at a more sustainable way, habit by habit, which is something I help people with. The third thing would be what you mentioned before about cooking at home, which ties in with the whole controlling what you're eating, choosing more the whole foods. And for Lindsay and I, it looks like we're cooking for a family, but it's just the 2 of us, but we're cooking enough for leftovers for the next day. And then that's sorted.
Awesome.
And we're also using these these are all recipes we use on repeat, they're just part of what we do now. And that's something it's good for people to have simple recipes that they can repeat, rather than Googling something.
100%.
They might do it once. But it's about being able to do things consistently.
It sounds a lot like training as well. Don't change up everything at once. When new members come in, that's something we could improve on. Adding this type of diet knowledge to new members, so connect them together, Don't do crazy changes in your training. Just do the small things well, and then build from there. And it's the same with the diet, which you just said. Start with something and make sure you do that well. Then build on that. That's really good.
And that even relates to people at a more higher end, say they're tracking calories and they're doing the macros. That even, rather than, for me, it's always good to see what they're currently doing. So they're not so they're not just changing everything, but seeing their base level, and then again, even at the higher end, doing one thing at a time, just to see what's working.
Do you reckon that? Do you reckon you have guidelines for how much fat, protein, and carbs do you need for your body weight? Is that an important thing to connect the dots that way? So depending on your body type and weight, should you be really consistent in how much protein and fat and carbs that you do eat?
That's a good question. Again, it comes back to this whole balance idea. And that there is importance in getting that balance right. But not to get too fixated on it from a more thinking of the calorie tracking level. But from a more general level, it's good to have these different components for sure.
Cool. So so what I'm hearing is from your perspective, which is really important, it's more important about what you eat, and then if you do this well, you are probably going to be within the ranges that you should be in for how many calories you're eating, how much protein, fat, and carbs you're getting, micronutrients as well. So instead of focusing on the numbers, it's more important to focus on what are the foods you are actually eating, and then all that stuff comes later.
And it's a more relaxed approach.
For sure.
Rather than
or
numbers level,
weighing everything, or did I get enough of this, or didn't I not get too much, and that can get quite stressful. And I think most people are probably that's what they think about when they think about starting eating healthy. They have to measure everything. So and they're worried about what their numbers are going to look like. What are their macros looking like? So what you and Lindsay have done here is going to make things so much simpler for so many more people.
Thanks, man. That's sort of what we were just doing it to help people in the most sort of practical way possible, and the foundational level, versus because I will often get asked all those sort of high-end questions, but they won't have these simple things down.
So, So they are looking for stuff up here, but they need to get the basics right.
And often things are also questions like, is this good, is this bad? Which comes back to, that's sort of a harder one, because you want to have most of your food over the week looking like it's whole food, real food. But obviously, we can enjoy other foods, like for me, ice cream. But there's not too many of those foods I eat. Like ice cream, I will have chips. But when you look at over the week, those are the only two probably things. And the overall picture is mainly plants, veggies, whole food, grains, protein options. But if you start to have alcohol, lots of other takeaways. The list. You need to then start looking at how many of those are in your diet. Because it's good. I don't look at things good or bad, but we just need to look at how often and how much.
Cool. So just make sure most of your week are good stuff, but maybe still don't get into the trap of eating really good for 4 days, 5 days, and then have 2 to 3 days of really bad. Because I guess that's not going to work out either. No. So it is probably from your perspective, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But trying to make sure that 7 days a week you are picking healthy options, and then on top of that, there might be some unhealthy stuff.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Brilliant. Awesome.
But to get there, like I'm there now, it's sort of automatic. But for someone to get there, it's one step at a time. Yeah, and you will get there.
Now, some misconceptions, because there is a lot of information out there, good and bad. Like, you can find a lot of good information on the internet, but you can also find a lot of bad information. So, misconceptions with dieting or just trying to eat healthy. Do you have any that we can learn from?
Misconceptions, I mean, there's so many, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with carbs, probably. I think because carbs often get carbs are bad.
Yeah.
That's probably one everyone knows.
Yeah.
And if you cut all your carbs out, if your goal was weight loss, you probably would lose weight. But is that because you're just cutting out junk food as well, or are you just eating less? I guess the point here is there's different types of carbs.
Yep.
There's more simple carbs, or there's more complex carbs that are more the whole grainy ones that aren't stripped of things. So that would be things like brown rice, the quinoa, buckwheat, grainy bread.
Yep.
To the other end of the spectrum, which is biscuits, potato chips, that sort of junk lollies.
Yep.
And then in the middle, probably more like white rice, white bread.
Yeah.
So not all carbs are bad, and there's good carbs. Some surprising research that sort of was an insight to me was, I think in 2019 this research came out that they looked at 200 countries and looked at 11 million sort of deaths over since 1990 to maybe 2020, 17, and what they found was, in terms of dietary risk factors for mortality, the highest dietary factor was a diet low in whole grains, was the biggest killer.
That is interesting.
For cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
So, in a way that, the whole claim carbs are bad.
Yeah.
But I think you need to be clear on what carbs are good, and that's whole grains. Yeah. Do you know what those are?
Yes.
Things like the grainiest bread you can get.
For sure.
Brown rice.
Yeah.
Again, repeating myself. Wild rice.
Yeah.
But even things like potato.
Yeah.
Or kumara.
For sure.
But just not the more deep fried potato and all that stuff. So I think that was quite interesting. Number one thing, diet lack in whole grains. But that relates to, if you're having a diet low in whole grains, that likely means you're having a diet high in processed grains, processed foods. The second biggest killer was salt, high in salt, and that relates again to this whole processed foods, refined foods.
High in salt and sodium.
Yeah. So those are related. The third thing, highest rate was lack of fruit. Okay. Again, that's probably something people...
That's a funny one, because a lot of people have that, if they need to cut sugar out of their diet, they just go to fruit, and then and then people cut fruit out of their diet, and in a way of cutting sugars out, but they keep their Powerades in, they keep all this other processed stuff, so that's a really interesting one, that people shouldn't be afraid to have fruit, even the high sugar fruits. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Maybe
so that's a really interesting one
on your T-shirt. Eat fruit.
we need something like that. But because I've heard that a lot before. With the fruit one. So those are three really interesting sort of findings.
I think the fourth was lack in vegetables.
Okay.
So, but interesting, the vegetables was fourth.
Yeah, exactly.
Whole grains was number one.
Yeah, because with the diet, a lot of information goes into eating mainly proteins, and then adding carbs, and trying to stay away from fats, where also you shouldn't stay away from fats, because again, there are still healthy fats that you do need from fish and so forth. Something that's that I wanted to ask, and I didn't have it in my questions. Sleep, you mentioned that at the start of the interview. How do we incorporate that, and it's how big a deal is that when you consider training and diet? So, and now you're writing your PhD on it, so it'd be cool to maybe just get 5 words on it.
It's definitely been it's becoming a more established sort of thing, sleep, or more common to talk about it, because it is a foundational health component. And then perhaps nutrition and exercise come above that. But if we aren't getting enough sleep or the good quality sleep, it affects how we move or how we eat, how we feel, for sure. It really messes with our hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. I don't know if you can think of a time when you did have quite a bad sleep. You're more likely to go for the processed, more junky, convenient foods.
The next day.
Yeah, the next
100%.
day. It's so obvious, but on a more subtle level, it can still have a role. And in that regulation. So that's something we're looking into and with my PhD. But stepping back from that, we think one of the main factors impacting sleep is screens at night, and having them in the bedroom. Even
I'm a bad culprit for that.
And even till just before you fall asleep. So that's sort of an interesting area to be in as well.
So it's that, is it something as simple as leave it in the other room, and if you just can't do that, leave it somewhere where you can't reach it? I mean, and now that's become a habit for me. Because I did used to do it, but now I leave it charged, my phone, outside in the lounge. And I did have to buy an alarm clock. That's something. My excuse for having my phone at night is I use it as an alarm. So I should probably just buy that bullet.
Maybe I should start selling the alarm clocks.
You should probably sell, but there's a
combined combo.
That is something I will need to change. But I think our whole chat today, there's some really simple stuff that I can start incorporating. Just the hardest part, I think, from a normal person aspect in the diet realm, where you're the expert, I can learn a lot from this, and just trying to really make things simple and then just start something rather than worrying about all the just the complex things around changing my food habits, but just doing, like, my diet is good, but with what we've been talking about today, I could be a lot better, and I could make it a lot simpler for myself.
And also increase confidence in knowing that this is good.
Definitely.
And that this is healthy, and I'm more in control. Because
definitely.
That's some of the feedback we've got from the book, is people, even if it's just a few things, but they feel more confident. And knowing, okay, this is healthy meal, this is good.
Just a side question. From your sleep studies, this might be jumping the gun. Is there any truth to the 8 hours, or was that just a random thing, or is that an actual thing? The 8 hours of sleep, could it be less? Could it be more? Have you got any insight on that?
There is a range of recommendations from 7 to 9 for adults. So that's on duration of sleep. What time? But you can jump into bed and not even be asleep. So from the time you're sleeping, you can count that. And majority of people don't get those amounts of sleep. And the teenagers I'm looking into, I think 50 to 90% of them don't get 8 hours. Their issue is, though, they have to wake up for school. But we have to get up for work too. But so there is those guidelines, but it also matters the quality of sleep.
For sure.
And that relates to this whole screen thing. But also relates to winding down, putting more effort into
actually going to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff.
Dark curtains make the room dark.
Yeah.
And go to sleep.
Start, relaxing before you jump into bed.
Yeah.
Turning the TV off. However, we are looking into, this is why we're doing this research, is Netflix as bad as, doing some homework or doing your work? Is that more stimulating?
Okay. Yeah.
Versus sort of mindlessly watching something.
Yeah.
So that's something we don't know yet.
Yeah.
We know screens are bad, but we just don't know what's worse and how bad.
Yeah, if you're actually focusing on doing work in front of the screen or a screen, or if you're just watching a movie.
Or scrolling.
That would be, on through Facebook or whatever. Oh, that would be interesting
So
to
those
see.
are questions we don't
anything on, because obviously out of all the hours you're sleeping, REM sleep is only a very, very small percentage of that. Would there be anything in the research on that, or anything to measure that REM sleep is the main thing, or is it mainly just the whole sleep?
Yeah, I mean those cycles we go through are really important.
Yeah.
And they are the restorative ones and make us feel refreshed. So it's so important to have that deep sleep.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to be interrupted too. Like you could get a notification on your phone, and that interrupts your REM sleep.
Yeah.
I think there's stats, or there's current research says you're twice as likely to sleep worse if you have a phone in your room. Just because of that interruptions.
Yeah.
But yeah, REM sleep is definitely important. It's quite hard to measure because you need to put all those electrodes on.
For sure, yeah.
So in my research, we're not doing that. It's more, we're observing what people are doing in their homes. So
yeah, exactly. And as you said, bad sleep leads to a change in diet on the next day. Could be. So that's obviously something you'll be looking at.
You can use your Fitbits are good.
Okay.
Or your trackers. They can help you look at the quantity. They also will show some REM stuff. Might not be super accurate, but it's good insights. Like educational. So that's worth, if you've got one.
Yeah.
Because we're using Fitbits in the study.
Brilliant.
It's becoming more common, that sort of stuff.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, they're everywhere. A bunch of members will have them as well. Yeah. But again, I guess even with the tracking devices, still keep things simple. Like, why have a Fitbit if you're having takeaways every night and you're struggling with sleep and all the other factors? So I guess it is about like making sure everything sort of fits the bill.
And that can be where it can be tricky, or like it can be good to have a coach to look at what areas are my strengths, what are some things I need to work on, whether that's the sleep, the diet, the shopping, the environmental foundation stuff.
Awesome. No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, great. This was a great interview. I really learned a lot, and I'm sure a bunch of our and I'm sure a bunch of our listeners and people who watched it, they learnt a lot as well. 100%. And eat mainly vegetables. Eat everything, but eat mainly vegetables, nuts, seeds, grainy bread, and some meat. Correct?
Yeah, nice. Eat food. Not too much. Mostly plants.
Brilliant.
There you go, mate.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brad.
Cheers.
Cheers.